Welcome to another of my coffee break videos, where you will find interesting snippets from the art world. Sometime between 1880 and 1890, the body of a young girl, who looked about 16, was pulled out of the river Seine in Paris. There were no marks on her body, and it was assumed that she had committed suicide. Her body was placed with other corpses on public display in the Paris mortuary. Nobody recognised her, or at least no one came forward. We don't know what her name was, her real age or background, or how her life brought her to Paris and left her drowned in the River Seine. But while she was never identified, that's not to say she went unnoticed. She was destined to become famous. The story goes that this dead girl was so good looking that an attendant at the mortuary arranged for a plaster cast to be made of her face. Before long, her alluring, deathly likeness was reproduced in cast masks and sold in souvenir shops across Paris, Germany, and even the rest of Europe. Now known as L'Inconnue, or the Unknown, her frozen half-smile rested on mantels and hung in drawing rooms all over the continent. She was positioned in artists' workshops as a mute, motionless model. Poets and novelists became entranced. She became a kind of morbid meme for early 20th century writers, who contrived countless dramatic histories for this heartbroken heroine. Death in water is a very romantic concept. Death, water, and a young woman are a tantalising combination. We now leap forward about 50 years to the 1940s, and a man called Asmund Lardal, who had a business in Norway making small toys out of wood and printing children's books and calendars. In 1946, Lardal was experimenting with plastic and, using this soft, malleable substance, manufactured one of his most famous playthings, the Annie doll. She had soft skin, sleeping eyes, and natural hair. I suppose a forerunner of the Tressie doll. Anyway, this doll eventually became a bestseller and was awarded Toy of the Year in Norway. Then, in the 1950s, a group of doctors approached Lardal and asked if he could make a life-size doll to help demonstrate a newly developed resuscitation technique, a procedure known as CPR. They found a very cooperative manufacturer, as Lardal's own son, when he was 2 years old, had been saved from drowning by his father forcing water out of his airways. Lardal embarked upon this project and eventually produced a life-size mannequin that could be used to practice life-saving techniques. Apart from the technical issues, Lardal had to decide what kind of face he would give this giant doll. And he remembered a serene mask he'd once seen hanging on the wall of his in-laws' house. It was, of course, L'Inconnue. Lardal felt it was important that the mannequin should be female, suspecting that men in the 1960s would be fairly reluctant to practice CPR on the lips of a male doll. He kept the name of his Annie doll, but gave the mannequin L'Inconnue's face, along with the body of full-size adult dimensions. She was given a collapsible chest for practicing compressions, and open lips to simulate mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The mannequin became available in the 1960s and was marketed under the name of Rescue Anne. She obviously wasn't the only CPR mannequin on the market, but she is considered the first and most successful patient simulator ever. And over the years, she has been responsible for helping hundreds of millions of people learn the basics of how to save a life with CPR. Rescue Anne is often said to have the most kissed face of anyone in history. Today, many people question whether the flawless features of Laikonu's mask could ever have come from a drowned girl. Skeptics suggest that the face of a corpse retrieved from a river would be misshapen, bloated, or scarred. Some say the mask we know must have been taken from a live model, posing for a moulder. A beautiful face who later became somehow swept up in another girl's legend. It is possible, this is my own view, that the dead girl was indeed the original basis of the mask, and the features were subsequently resculptured into a more aesthetically pleasing visage after the imprint was taken, removing any blemishes of drowning and death. We will, of course, never know the true story. The actual body of the unknown girl is thought to have been disposed of in an unmarked pauper's grave. Police records from the era make no mention of this mysterious girl. The original mould still resides in the Paris workshops of L'Atelier Lorenzi at 60 Avenue Laplace, Actuelle, from which I'm told you can still get a cast. There is so much more information about this unfortunate lady for you to find out. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you again.